name very well. Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan is like Yeroboam. You know Yeroboam in the Bible? He was the one, he had the problem with the south, and he said he came with the idea that I will build another temple to deviate the Israelites from going to the south. Our Yeroboam is Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan. Abd al-Malik was a great statesman, but a very failed religious Muslim. He couldn't go to Mecca because Al-Zubayr, please mark these names and write them down and do your research. Al-Zubayr prevented him from going to Mecca. He said, Ya Allah, you're preventing me from going to Mecca? I'm going to do something very creative. I'm going to build a shrine, which we call, by the way, you know what's the real name of that shrine? The Mosque of Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan. You know what we call it now? The Dome of the Rock. They don't want to call it the Mosque of Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan. You know why? They don't want to remind Muslims that it's Abd al-Malik who built this mosque. But if you go to Jerusalem and you went, you see it's the Mosque of Abd al-Malik. Facts that many Muslims don't want to see. When did Jerusalem become significant to us? When the Crusaders decided to invade the Holy Land. And Saladin captured it. Suddenly we woke up and we said Jerusalem is very sacred. It's because of Salah ad-Din's treaty with Richard Lionheart that then Jerusalem became significant. Before that, ask a companion of the Prophet, would you go to, it was not called Jerusalem, it was called Elia, because that's the name that Hadrian gave to the city when he wanted to provoke the Jewish people. Elia. Would you go to Elia? Of course not. I would go to Mecca, I would go to Medina, I would go to Baghdad, I would go to Basra, I would go to Cairo. What should I do with Elia? But then it became significant when the Crusades happened. So I'm just saying that it is so important to understand history. And everything Anila said is true, but Muslims are blind because they are driven by emotions. Jerusalem is part of my faith. Where? Show me, where? Where? Where is Jerusalem part of your faith? Why it's zero mentioned in the Quran? Where? And I want to say also a few things. I wrote a very long script, but it provoked me to speak about something else. I want to say that I came from Abu Dhabi and lived the past 3 weeks in horror that I never experienced in my life. Horror by a terrorist regime in Iran. We keep receiving messages day and night. Missile alert, take cover. And we don't have shelters. We have basements, we have safe zones, of course, like basements and other places that are covered. But honestly, it was crazy. And then I asked myself, since I love history and knowledge, what is the problem between Persians and Jews? Zero. Persians and Jews should be best friends. I always remind my Jewish friends and ask them and tell them, you know who was the first official who restored the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland? 99% of the time they said, yeah, of course, we love him. He was a British official. Balfour, my friend. There was someone preceded Balfour 2,000 years before. Cyrus the Great, and he commanded me to build him a house in Jerusalem that is in Judea. These are the words of Cyrus, Orash, we call him in Arabic. The Jews now should return the favor to Cyrus, and I would say this honestly, I believe this regime will fall eventually. And I want to say one thing, I want to conclude, Daniela, but I know many people might say, don't say this in a blue state. I'm going to say it, okay? Very gently. I want to say it. I'm standing here now, right now, before you, because I was known worldwide for my advocacy for the Abraham Accords. And I believe the Abraham Accords are the greatest breakthrough in American foreign diplomacy, and all of you should be proud of that. Even if you are not Jewish, even if you're not Christian, even if you're an atheist, even if you are a Democrat, Republican, whatever your party is, you should be proud of the Abraham Accords. And I know when I speak about this, some people come to me and say, every event that I speak about this, the event organizers, they send me a long WhatsApp group. Don't talk about it anymore. I said, okay, I'll talk briefly. I know many of you might have some opinions, but honestly, in the Middle East, we love President Trump. great country will do a great favor for the people of Iran. And I hope, inshallah, that this country that God blessed with so many blessings, including its great army, will bring those mullahs on their knees and free the Iranian people so we may have serious accords, inshallah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lord. So, he didn't tell us, you put me to shame in the language department because, I was bar mitzvah, you speak Hebrew, you speak and I read a story, go to YouTube, see about his story growing up and learning languages in France, right? And that's a great story, Lord. So I want to thank you so much for being here. You're on the panel now. We're going to bring our next keynote is Rabbi Erez Sherman, who is the senior rabbi of Seminary. And just briefly for Rabbi Sherman, he's ordained by the Jewish Theological Seminary of America in 2009, holds degrees. I mean, this is a well-versed rabbi, okay? Music, okay? He Jewish studies from Columbia and Albert A. List College, and it includes a focus on music and modern synagogue life. So he joined Sinai. I told Rabbi Sherman, my wife and I were married under Rabbi Dershowitz, who was a wonderful rabbi, who preceded Rabbi Sherman. And he marries Nicole Guzik, who I know from my other life. And she's also a rabbi. I don't know how many rabbis are married to one another. Are there? All right. Well, I want to just also bring up in he has a podcast. I asked, and this podcast is great. It's focusing on intersection of sports and faith. Okay. A lot of people pray for the Lakers or I don't know that, Dodgers for three-peat. Rabbi Sherman, you can talk about all that for us too. And thank you so much for being our honored guest as well.
First of all, to follow Anila and Loai, who actually I've followed you also online. I'm number 699,000 after Alan. But truly, to both of you, thank you. I think that's all we can say from the Jewish community. Thank you. When a rabbi looks for another rabbi, if permission allows, I'd like you to be my rabbi as well. When I moved to LA in 2009, I kept two things, because I'm not from here, I'm not from the UAE, but I'm from New York. And so I kept my cell phone number, 917, you can't lose those roots. But I also kept my love of good pizza. And I was a rabbi in the Valley for 5 years, in 2009, 2014, at Shomrei Torah in West Hills. On my lunch breaks, I would go to a pizza shop. It was actually Amici's Pizza on Van Owen and Platte, if you're from the Valley. And the guy who owned it, his name was Najib, and he was from Pakistan. And when you break bread, you get to know the person across the table. And so over the 5 years that I was there, I got to know Najib, and I asked him, who are you? And Najib said that he came after 9/11 because he was a pharmacist in Pakistan when the Taliban came and literally cut his hair. And he came to this country for freedom. I'll never forget one summer, it was Ramadan. I was not fasting, I was eating pizza, but this man who was fasting for a month in the hot San Fernando Valley summer, he was making my pizza. And I asked him, Najib, when are you going to be done fasting? And he said, well, I have to go to the imam to make sure to tell me when I'm going to be done fasting. And I realized that in 2 days it was going to be Rosh Chodesh, the new month. And I said, Najib, you're going to be done in 2 days. He said, Rabbi, you can't answer me when I'm going to be done with Ramadan. I have to go to the imam. And he came back in 2 days and he said, but you were right. How did you know when Ramadan ended? And we had an amazing discussion about the lunar calendar that we both shared. And it was one of these moments that we realized we had much, much, much more in common than we had in difference. I shared this story today because Anila said it's about breaking bread, a new dawn for Jews and Muslims. Thankfully, we're doing this today because in a couple of days, that loaf of bread will be flatbread for us. It'll be matzah. And when we sit at our Passover Seder table with our families and our communities, and I hope this year that you have somebody that is not Jewish at your Seder. Yes, invite your friends and family, but invite a neighbor who's not Jewish to see these rituals. Because at that Seder, we're going to take the middle matzah, we have a pile of 3, and we're going to break it, and what's it going to become? The afikomen. We're going to hide it, the leader of the Seder will hide it, and we know that we cannot end the Seder until this large piece of matzah is found. But who searches for the afikomen? I didn't tell them before. They actually know. Knowledge and facts. It's our children that search for this piece of matzah. The entire Seder is not about me and you, but it's about the people that are not in this room. It's about our children. But also the afikomen is the story of the broken and the whole. And our task for that Seder night is to put the pieces back together. That is the work of our time. I watched your beautiful address at Stand With Us in Vegas a couple of days ago. And Lawai Sharif talked about the success of the Abraham Accords. It's not just rooted in agreements, but you said not between governments, but most importantly in relationship between souls and people. And you said, just like you did now, that the hope is that one day we have the Cyrus Accords, a future of peace between the people of Iran and Israel. And as a rabbi at Sinai Temple, which I'm inviting you right now to please join us, where over 50% of our population is from Iran, I cannot agree more. Because history reminds us that this is possible. During the golden age of Spain, Jews and Muslims lived together in remarkable partnership. Jewish thinkers that we quote every single day, like Maimonides. He wrote in Arabic, deeply influenced by Islamic philosophy. Jewish scholars thrived in places like Granada. Leaders like Chasda ibn Shaprut rose to prominence. And after the expulsion of Jews in Spain in 1492 was the Ottoman Empire that brought the Jews into their lands in places like Istanbul and Salonika. And then Maimonides ended his life actually in Egypt, of all places of this week, where he became a court physician in Cairo and wrote some of the greatest works there, like the Guide to the Perplexed in Arabic, and something that rabbis use every day, the Mishnah Torah, which became the law code of the Jewish people. He did not isolate himself, but he exchanged intellectual ideas with the greater society around him. But today I want to focus not what was, but rather what is and can be. I recently participated in an organization, Unpacked, for Israeli educators. At Sinai, we had 150 Israel educators from around the West Coast. And I was on a panel with Tova Hellerstein, who was the author of the study of American perception of Jews in Israel. And she emphasized something critical. She said, actually, don't lead with facts, but first lead with feelings. Facts matter, as we just heard. Facts matter. But only relationships that are built will allow us to understand that we have to learn the facts. That feeling happens when people meet people. So 3 brief stories of what happened just these past few weeks in my own life. Yes, as a rabbi at Sinai Temple, but most importantly as a Jew in the diaspora of America. Through my work hosting the podcast of Rabbi on the Sidelines, where we speak about the intersection of Jews and sports, the NBA All-Star Game was here. And yes, everybody made a big deal of having Deni Avdia, the first Jewish Israeli NBA All-Star. Yes, Deni, thank you. But we hosted a conference called Faith Connection in Sports at Sinai Temple, where Jews and Christians and Muslims came together. And one of those people that were on the panels was Mansour Laghari, who was from Pakistan, who when he became a citizen of the United States, the first thing he did was sign up to join the United States Armed Forces, because he understood that that was what freedom was about. Soraya Dean, one of our panelists, is actually an advisor to Mansour Laghari. He started a global Muslim-Jewish unity project where he brings kids together, not in a mosque, and not in a synagogue, and not in the church, but a basketball court. A place where you can pass the ball to each other, when you can high-five each other, when you can have the feeling. And only then, begin to learn the facts. It's the Afikomen in action, children helping to repair a broken world. Prior to that conference, I had the opportunity at the Jewish National Fund Conference in Miami, where I'm the head of the Rabbis for Israel organization, to interview two other amazing athletes, Sagi Muki, the judoka from Israel, and from Iran, Saeed Molaei. You know their very famous story where Saeed refused because of the Iranian government to fight with Sagi on a mat. And so what did he do? He defected to Mongolia, where he finally had the opportunity to meet his opponent. And today, Sagi and Saeed are not only best friends, but Saeed has visited Israel. And in front of 600 people, they held their medals together, but most importantly, they held their hands together in the air. Saeed said, in judo, we say friendship is the purest of human feelings. He chose courage over conformity, and in doing so, he found freedom too. This next generation, we know, and I see some of you out there, are hungry for connection. And finally, in April 2024, during the encampment season, I met a young man named Hamza Howdy who was writing in Newsweek. Hamza was saying, what you young people are doing on the college campus in the West are not helping me as a Gazan, as a Palestinian at all. And so I called a friend of mine, Bassem Meir, who you all probably know very well, and I said, Bassem, can you connect me with this young man? Do you know him? And Bassem said, how do you think he got Newsweek? And so Bassem connected me with Hamza Howdy, this young man who fled persecution in Gaza because he himself was on the streets of Gaza protesting against Hamas and the terrorist regime. He told me something striking. While he risked his life opposing extremism in Gaza, he saw students doing what they shouldn't be doing. Recently, I invited Hamza on Zoom because he's not yet been able to visit the United States of America. And I brought him to a class of mine that I'm teaching at Loyola Marymount University that I'm very proud of, especially the university of a Jesuit college called Zionist Ideas. And Hamza spoke to this class, which only a third of them are Jewish. And I said at the end, can you sort of explain how you think about Zionist ideas? And this is what Hamza told our class. He said, Rabbi, I have seen what Zionism has achieved for the Jewish people. And I hope one day that there will be something like that for me and my people too. That, Hamza, is courage. And around the same time I met, or began to follow, Ahmed Al-Khatib, from the Atlantic Council of an organization called Realign for Palestine. He too grew up in Gaza. He is deaf in the right ear from actually an airstrike, and he lost 32 members of his family in the Gaza war. And yet he has built honest dialogue and human connection. Last week I had the opportunity to literally be face-to-face with Ahmed Al-Khatib in a conference called the Lafel Conference, 150 Zionist rabbis. Hard to believe today that we have to put the adjective in front of the word rabbis called Zionist rabbis. And so we gathered in Palm Beach, Florida, which we determined was a brave and safe space. And at the end, after thanking him for all that Ahmed does, and if you read him, he truly does so much, I thanked him just like I did to you on behalf of the Jewish people, and I asked him, like I always do our interfaith partners, when we realize that we have allies and friends, I said, I know what you have done for us, but what can we do for you? 150 rabbis, Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, non-denominational. We were all waiting for what we could do for Ahmed. And he told us two things. He said, number one, be a prouder Jew. And number two, be a prouder Zionist. And finally, when you talk about the Cyrus Accords, every Saturday afternoon after I leave Sinai Temple and turn into my civilian clothes, I go for a walk around Westwood on Shabbat. That walk began in April 2024 when I wanted to see what was happening just a mile away from my house on the UCLA campus. And what I saw was horrific and divisive and full of fear for Jewish students and a lot of other students. And thankfully, those encampments are no longer, and I want to thank Chancellor Julio Frank, an amazing new chancellor of UCLA, for doing the work that he's doing. But 4 weeks ago, I went on that same walk. The UCLA campus was very quiet. But as I turned toward Wilshire Boulevard, I heard a lot of commotion and noise. And I walked down Wilshire and Westwood Boulevard, and I saw something that I never thought I would see in my life. I saw Persian Jews. I saw Muslims. I saw all different types of Americans. And what were they holding? A 3-part flag. It was Iranian with a lion on it, it was an American flag, and it was an Israeli flag. And I realized that the Cyrus Accords began in Westwood Boulevard, right here, in our amazing, amazing city. That moment will live forever in my mind, but really, as we sit at the Seder table, we're going to put that piece of matzah back together. That is our answer to the question when we say, Ma nishana, why is this day right now different from all other nights? Because you are here. Because we are here. We are here together to choose to break bread not as strangers, but as partners. And in so doing, we will move from much, much brokenness in this world to a lot of fullness and wholeness ahead. Thank you.
I want to make a few remarks. This is technically the introduction. I did speak a little bit, but I do want to welcome everyone here to what is the first Breaking Bread, a New Dawn for Jews and Muslims program. You are here this year, and one of these seats is reserved for Elijah, by the way. Yeah. I don't know if you knew that. But Elijah may be with us in all these seats, and we're hoping that we spread the word of this program because it's exceptional. And I'm humbled following all three of you. You are amazing people. You're changing, actually helping to change the world. And we know this. We know this is not making this up. So I want to just say briefly, so everyone knows, we are having a panel discussion with Q&A, and if we don't have time for all the questions to be answered, because I think when we hear these fine speakers, and we have a few more we will introduce, we're going to have more questions, and that's a good thing, okay? When we have questions, we get information. We're not just going on the internet and just choosing, who sounds the loudest, or is the most, whatever their rhetoric is. So if we don't do this, I'm going to ask our panelists, we're going to keep the cards of your questions. So keep them, even if you go home and you still have these cards. We have our email.